All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Hyperion Solutions Conference. And welcome to this particular session, which is just going to be really open questions. We're going to answer a couple of industry questions about what we're seeing in narrative reporting, and then we're going to completely open it up to any of the questions that you may have. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Opal Alapat. I'm a practice director at interRel and also an Oracle ACE director. Jay, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Jay Chapman. I'm an Oracle ACE associate with Sierra Cedar, and I've been a consultant now for about 5 years officially. Prior to that, I was using Oracle Cloud products in the higher ed space.
Nice. Okay, so real quick, just in case we have folks on here who may not be familiar with the narrative reporting suite, I'm just going to do a quick overview and then we'll go right into the industry questions. So the first thing that you might be asking is, why did we devote an entire session to this? And honestly, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide, the real honesty is because it's Oracle's strategic reporting solution. There's a lot of different reporting tools out there, especially within the Oracle EPM space. Many of you are very familiar with a tool called financial reporting, otherwise known as HFR or FR. And this tool is so strategic that it is going to be replacing FR probably in a few years is my guess. So it offers a lot of different reporting tools within this suite that can answer a number of business reporting issues. And so that's why we both are very important in the narrative reporting space. We both do a lot of narrative reporting ourselves, and that's why we feel that it is an important and up and coming solution. I do also want to iterate that this is a suite of solutions that actually has 4 different tools within it. It can be a little bit confusing because one of the tools is also called narrative reporting, which is focused on the business practice of narrative reporting. So that is, basically adding context to your data by telling your financial story with charts and grids mixed with text. In addition, there is management reporting, which will eventually replace FR, and that's going to be a static, highly formatted type of report solution. There's a data storage container, which in the current licensing tiers of EPM Cloud really is just a sample application, but in the legacy tiers, it was a custom application where you could have 5 different cubes. And then there's also disclosure management, which is more on the accounting side, but it does offer a regulatory filing and statutory reporting solution as well. All right, so let's go right into the questions. So Jay, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'll also give some of my insight as well. But I wanted to ask you kind of the experience you're having with narrative reporting and what you're seeing as a consultant out there. First question being, how have you seen the reporting landscape change since EPM and Analytics moved to cloud?
I think right off the bat, since narrative reporting, formerly known as EPRCS, was kind of brought onto the scene, we have a solution that allows us to combine narrative and data in a secure single environment. Prior to that, there was nothing like it on the market. On-prem, there was nothing like that on the market. And so right off the bat, the landscape shifted from just kind of our, you mentioned HFR, Smart View, but we shifted from just kind of our copying and paste and disparate methods to create a narrative report to now a tool that allows us to combine a lot of data and reports and narrative. So I think that was huge. And as the years have gone on, we've seen a lot of features and enhancements to the tool. And I think another big game changer is management reporting. I mean, that allows us to, take our static reports to a whole nother level, particularly if you are an FR user. Just the enhanced feature sets, whether it's the charting, whether it's, the ability to do kind of cross-cloud reporting with numerous grids, things like that. Again, really shifted the landscape. So with things that we're seeing right now with the clients who are using NR, I mean, they love management reporting and trying to find new ways to use it. And I think a lot of what they want to do right now, we just can't do just because those features haven't been released yet, or those, Oracle really hasn't kind of gone down that road and that path. But the good news is that because this is cloud, that those types of updates and enhancements, hopefully we'll see fairly soon.
And what I'd like to add to that is two other things, which is I think it also says something about the trust in cloud. Cloud technologies in general. I know that when Oracle EPM Cloud was first released, there was a lot of hesitation, worried about security and things like that. Since then, I know that, our consulting firm has had a number of even banking and financial institutions move to the cloud. And so it shows that there's definitely a trust there. There's obviously something that's compelling about this technology stack that is helping customers make the decision to move there. And then the other thing, which I think you touched on, which is, FR has been on an architecture platform that is pretty old, to the point where we've only really ever seen a couple of chart types on it. And as you had talked about, they're able to iterate faster. They also built this on a brand new platform for management reporting. And so they're able to do a lot more. And that's why we have 20 different chart types, including waterfall charts, which a lot of people love, directly within the technology itself. So completely agree. Next question. Not to put you too much on the spot, and I'll answer this myself, but what do you feel are the strengths and weaknesses within the narrative reporting suite? And why don't we kind of break this into two parts? Let's start with strengths.
Strengths, okay. Well, we talked about it a little bit. I think the big strength is the ability to build narrative reports through the confines of what we call report packages. So a report package, allows us to add our users, whether they're authors, reviewers, signers, allows us to add the docklets, which is basically the content of the report, as well as security into that as well. So you think of a package that has all these objects or artifacts in it, and that makes up the report package. Again, haven't seen that out there in the market, particularly in cloud, for years and years. And so having a structure that allows you to do that, I think is a huge strength. Another big one is the collaboration. Think about the amount of users who you might include in a narrative reporting process, whether they're subject matter experts, whether they're just members of your FP&A team or your budget office team. Narrative reporting has a workflow associated with it that allows the collaboration. You can bring these folks in, they can work on their content, submit it, and leave. And there's no having to wait till they're done with their section and then having to email it out to somebody else, and that person has to take it and put it in a master document. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So I think that's a huge strength. And then again, the secure management with the tool, I think is a huge strength.
Yep. What I think I would add to that is on the narrative reporting tool, I love the fact that you have a tool that can directly connect to Oracle EPM data sources as well as analytics, and then even expand to basically anything that you can get into Excel. I tell customers that all the time. It doesn't matter where the data source comes from. If you can get it into Excel, you can get it into report packages. And then on the disclosure management side, what I would add is it's cool to have this suite of solutions that answer so many reporting questions. So you can do your static reporting, you can do your board reporting, you can do your statutory reporting and regulatory filing, all within one suite. And it doesn't cost any more to have, all of these solutions under one roof. So I think that that's a really cool, flexible strength as well. So let's shift over to weaknesses. The $1 million question: where do you think Oracle is getting it wrong or possibly could do better with the narrative reporting suite?
Should we make sure there's no Oracle folks on the call?
Actually, I checked it first. There weren't at the time.
Okay. Well, we're having worked with this tool for what, 4 or 5 years. I'm always trying to find ways, right, to make this tool better, and working with the product managers and just bugging the heck out of them and saying, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? I think for me, right off the bat, usability is everything. So I'm a huge FR hater. Like, I cannot stand financial reports at all. And so when management reporting came around, that was huge for me, just based on the fact that it has a refreshed look, it's user friendly, a different paradigm shift, if you will, when it came to static reporting. So, so kind of keeping with that, we're looking at narrative reporting, just the narrative reporting piece, and the report center. It's starting to get a little dated.
Mm.
So I think, one weakness is just not really being able to kind of keep things as refreshed and, um, kind of just sticking with what works. But I think now that this tool has grown and is becoming more popular, now it's time to kind of help refresh the report center a little bit, give it a new UI, kind of allow users a little bit of kind of easeability when they're using that. Um, I think too, for me, a big weakness right now is notes.
Mm.
Um, while I love the concept,
Oh, and explain it real quick to anyone who hasn't heard of it.
sure. So notes is a way to add text to a management report, but that's tied to or based on a point of view. So you can insert, a text box, if you will, and put in some narrative that might explain, some actuals and budgetary data within the report. But that text is tied to a point of view. So it depends on your dimensionality that you're using in your report. And then there's a notes manager where you can kind of keep track of all the note templates that are created and things like that. I think at least with us, we haven't seen a lot of customers or clients use notes.
Mhm.
I think it's great in concept, it's great in idea, but I don't know, at least from where we stand, I don't know if it really caters to a lot of users.
Mm.
And I don't know if we really know why. Kind of haven't really put our finger on that pulse yet, but I'd like to see a way for it to be a little bit more user friendly, particularly with public sector type of clients who really provide a lot of analysis on variances and a lot of analysis on different things. I think that would be great to be able to, see a data grid with numbers and then be able to provide narrative based off of what they're seeing. It just makes sense, but for some reason, it's just not registering
Mm-hmm.
with folks. So I would like to see a little bit more work in that area just to make sure that it kind of appeals to everybody, not just a few.
Yep. And to add to that on notes, I also think, when I train on narrative reporting and I kind of explain what notes is to a lot of customers, I think they're looking for FR annotations. They're looking for
Yeah.
something more similar,
Hmm.
where they know which user logged the note or the commentary, and they
Hmm.
also want to know the date and the time they want to reply to each other. So I think they're looking almost for a replacement of that. But I do feel that it's a small percentage of customers in general that use either one of those features, to be honest,
Hmm.
at least for my customer base. And I also know that Oracle is working because right now Notes is kind of like this floating post-it note that exists on the report, which I don't think a lot of customers are finding as much value out of. And so I know Oracle is looking at possibly making them more in line with the lines of a grid, for instance, that's on your report, which could be a lot more helpful. But then on the other side, the other strength or the other weakness that I would add is on disclosure management. And I know that they're working on this now. After playing with it, and you and I both don't really do the accounting side of this, but after playing with it, I kind of wish it were more like the narrative reporting tool, where it was more like report packages, where it basically felt like narrative reporting, except that you could also do XBRL tagging and you could also do your Edgarization and things like that. I just feel like the two tools could be so similar. It would be nice if they were almost the same, but just with some extra features added. So it would be easier and more intuitive for customers.
Yeah, it's as if narrative reporting kind of sucked up the disclosure
Mhm.
management tool and it has it kind of separated on the
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Just like maybe an extra interface or something for XBRL and, auto tagging, things like that. And I think that's what I was talking to Al last week. And I think that's what he was saying. They're kind of going that direction. So it's nice to know that they've also recognized that. The last weakness, which I know will be controversial when I bring up, but I know that people on Cloud Customer Connect have seen this. With
Mhm.
management reporting, I sometimes feel like they could do a little bit more work on testing new features. I feel like, sometimes a new feature will be released that month and, we'll be able to break it, within using it pretty easily. So I know that, we do a lot on our side to log that stuff on Cloud Customer Connect, but I know that they're working hard to get testing more online. And I just wish there a little bit more testing done on, maybe the different platforms or versions or whatever it is, just to make sure that those features are fully working before they release them.
Yeah, and actually talking one more weakness, the distribution feature within the tool.
Yeah.
To be able to distribute a report package or parts of it outside of the named users who are in the cloud, I think makes a lot of sense. They don't, the people that are receiving it, the stakeholders don't have, they're not going to be in the development process anyway. So they're just really, this is a view only kind of thing. Right. But yeah, I've had a few folks that just kind of shake their head and like, this is a huge missed opportunity. Instead of having to download as a PDF and email it out, why can't we just, push a button, select who it is, and send it out from the narrative reporting tool?
Right.
They get that email, they get the link, they can go in, they can view it, and provide your comment through email versus being in the system. So, and I've heard that was supposed to be changing, but I haven't really heard anything since. But I think if they can kind of bolster up that distribution feature, I think that'll be huge.
Well, maybe we can ask that question in the roadmap of reporting, which I think is either tomorrow or the next day this week.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay, moving on. So what are the different ways your customers are using the narrative reporting suite? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, we have, I work a lot with public sector entities and agencies. So, right off the bat, budget books, CAFRs are probably your two biggest use cases for narrative reporting with them. The great thing with the CAFR, for example, which is the comprehensive annual financial report that a lot of counties and cities and states will put out. The great thing about those is that you don't have to use data from planning, let's say. You can actually use data from ERP. And so a lot of financial data from ERP. And with management reporting, you're able to tap into ERP financials, GL or budgetary control to bring that data in. You can also build reports using OTBI and put those in the report center and then be able to call upon those reports as well. So it's really cool to have a tool like narrative reporting that allows you to leverage some of those ERP, whether it's data or reports that are already built, to bring those into the report package and to build your CAFR that way. On the budget book side, a lot of that data is already going to exist in a data source like planning. So you have your budget data there. You can just tap into that, or if you're pulling in actuals from the GL into planning, you can access that information. So we're seeing a lot of that. Outside of kind of those two books, or narrative reporting, we see use of books. Not having to build a large kind of narrative report, but smaller scale, just throwing in your books. I mean, a lot of us who use FR understand the books feature. That now exists in narrative reporting. It's slowly also being enhanced as we go along. I think now, though, I have a few clients that are using that for more managerial kind of reports, just to kind of send out kind of where we're at, and it has the table of contents and things like that. I think the last thing is we're seeing a lot of, well, actually one really cool use case that was short-lived, unfortunately, was using the report center. So creating a report package and then using the report center as a repository for documents. So the doclet would be the form that it was actually for a construction. Was it construction? I think so. but the document would be in the form that whomever would have to fill out. So they would download it, in SmartView, fill it out, and then once they submitted it, it would go to an approver to be able to approve it, and then submit it that way, and then they can just kind of have a big package of all the filled out forms to use for separate reporting or whatever. It became a bit cumbersome from what I understand.
Okay.
And so while I think their thinking was in the right place, but I think I even talked with Al about this before. While their thinking was in the right place, it was just a little bit hard to kind of quickly put together and make work. So it'll be interesting to see later on down the line if we can do something like that.
Okay. So what I've seen in the last few years is we definitely have people migrating from FR to MR. And for customers out there who are, curious about, I kind of touched on this earlier, when is MR going to replace FR and what's that going to look like? Just to kind of give you all an update in case you haven't heard. So FR will eventually be sunset in the cloud, not necessarily an on-prem, but in the cloud. My guess is probably 3 years or so. And Oracle is going to be releasing a light version of management reporting within the regular EPM cloud pods. So like within planning and financial, consolidation and close, you'll see MR, like a light version of it right next to FR. So then you can just start making the transition to the new MR tool. And so definitely we're seeing a lot of customers do that. I think it's a lot less painful than customers imagine. Sometimes I tack it on as a workshop to the narrative reporting training that we do. And it'll be on the very last day, we'll take a couple of hours, do a workshop where everybody in the group will take 10 to 50 reports, and then we'll just migrate them together and then kind of work out the issues. And sometimes you can get 100 reports done in just a couple hours working together. So I'm definitely seeing a big rise in people actually moving from FR to MR. Also seeing people use report packages for like their board packages, as well as replacing like their annual financial statements with something like that. And then the last thing that I would say of what we're seeing is definitely more connected reporting is what I would call it, which sounds like a total marketing buzz term, and I get that. But what I mean is they'll create report charts and grids within management reporting, and then they'll import them into report packages. And so there's a direct connection between the different reporting tools within narrative reporting where they understand, I don't have to build this report a million times. I can keep it in SmartView, or I can put it in management reporting reports, and then I can just recycle it in my report packages, and I don't have to like reinvent the wheel. So definitely people understanding that, grasping it, and holding on to it as they figure out their new reporting strategy in the cloud. So yeah. All right, so we are about halfway through the session. We want to open it up for any audience questions. Feel free to ask anything. Can't promise we'll answer everything, but we'll try. But feel free to ask any technical questions, any functional questions. I believe we both have the latest pricing as well, but feel free to ask any questions that you might have. So I'm going to open up the Q&A and see what we get.
You both were so thorough.
I know. I just our 3 questions. I know.
It's the problem when you get Opal and I in the same.
I know.
Same space.
We could talk about this for a long time.
Does anyone have any questions for Opal and Jay?
What's funny is I recognize a number of narrative reporting customers on this call. So you guys know who I am. So just ask away and you'll get a second opinion from Jay as well.
It's like free consulting right here, guys.
I know.
All right, it looks like there was a question. Oh, just joined. Is it possible to quickly scroll through the slides?
Oh, you know what? You didn't really miss a whole lot. We just did an intro to narrative reporting, and then we asked 3 basic questions about the industry. And we will have replays available. When is that, Robin? Is it next week or?
Yeah, we'll have recordings available on the interRel website, probably within the next week or so, once we can get all of the sessions kind of cleaned and saved to the site. So give us a week or so to get it all together.
All right. Well, I guess we'll give people back their time. If there are no questions, I'll leave it open for like another 30 seconds or so, but I'm kind of surprised we don't have a lot of people just jumping to ask us questions.
I am too.
Well, can we ask a question? Can we people either chat just kind of talk about quickly what they use narrative reporting for, if they're current narrative reporting customers? How are you using narrative reporting today, whether it's board reports or static reporting?
And I think you all can access the chat and you can put in answers for all panelists and attendees. Or you can just do panelists if you're afraid to say it out loud. So far, nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe these, I know a couple who are using narrative reporting because I've been to your site. So you can't get away easily.
We have a very shy audience today.
Yeah, apparently we do. Hopefully they're all still paying attention.
That's right. Oh, all right. We just got one. Oh, not sure some other non-Hyperion tool is used.
Okay, so some people might be brand new to narrative reporting. I assume that would be the case.
I'm currently using FR, moving to FCC, migrating to FR first.
All right. Okay. So that's interesting. There's quite a few people in here who are not using narrative reporting yet.
Which I think, I know the last couple of years we've kind of found that people were interested, really still trying to learn what the tool's all about. I think as you go from FR to narrative reporting and start to use management reporting, you're going to find that the tool is a lot better. And I know Oracle is kind of still working on some of the parity things, just really trying to iron out all the little wrinkles to really have it kind of move away from FR completely. So that'll be good.
Yeah, I would add to that in the training classes I've given for people who are brand new to narrative reporting and management reporting, which is why they're obviously taking the class, they 100% unanimously have agreed that it is a better, more intuitive interface in general. So the number of clicks is less, just where you're supposed to go, kind of how everything looks, the real estate on the screen. They've said it's just a much better usability type of interface.
And one quick tip for those of you who are using FR and you're migrating to, let's say you end up becoming our customer, you're either migrating, it isn't quite a one-to-one where if your formatting from FR will match the formatting in management reporting. There's going to be some tweaks. There are a little bit of differences. Text functions, for example, in the text box might be a little bit different, things like that. So make sure when you migrate those reports over to check the reports, make sure that the data connection is still there, make sure that your formatting is still there. It's not a whole lot of work. It does actually a pretty good job in migrating the reports over from one to the other.
We did get an interesting comment, which brings up competitor tools, which, we don't necessarily have to segue into a rabbit hole on that, but Workiva was brought up. I do know that there are folks that used to use Cognos Disclosure Management, which I believe has been bought by Certant now. There are other reporting tools out there, and I would just say that if you're a customer who's evaluating whether or not you should go into narrative reporting from one of those tools, it is definitely an interesting use case and you should absolutely consider it. I have helped migrate customers from some of these reporting tools. They're all a little bit different, but I think the number one reason for why customers are looking to do it is because of the direct connectivity they have once you move onto a single platform where everything just kind of works together. So that's one of the most compelling reasons. And then of course, licensing, because once you've already bought into enterprise or standard EPM cloud licensing, you no longer have to pay fees to a third-party tool. So those are the two most compelling reasons that I've seen.
Yeah, good point with the connectivity. Being able to have one reporting option that can connect to all your data and all types of data.
Mhm.
You know, I think is huge.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're gonna have to wrap up this chat. We've gotten no questions so far. Nice comments, though. Appreciate them. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, Jay, how can people reach out to you?
Well, you can check my blog out, Functionally Technical, with Jay Chapman. You can just Google the name and reach out to me there. I am on Twitter at Mr_JWC40, no, EPM. I believe that's what it is. Or you can always email me at j.chapman@sierracedar.com.
Nice. If you want to reach out to me, also on Twitter, same as my blog, womaninepm.com. That's the same Twitter handle. Or you could reach out info@interRel.com and they'll route your question to the appropriate expert. So thank you all. Appreciate your time today for our little chat. And we look forward to a future webinar with you. Take
Thanks,
care,
everybody.
everybody.
Yes, thank you so much,